there is probably no better day to ask this question of how to design a regenerative business model than the last day of the Disruptive Innovation Festival 2015. Over the last 3 weeks, we've got lots of information, insights, and probably a little bit of creativity and input as well, stimuli for us to rethink the future and answers to the question, our economy is changing, and what do you need to know, experience, and do? It was about food and farming. It was about design, new business model, which is what we're doing today as well. It was about IoT, the Internet of Things, things that are maybe just out there or for us in the future in sci-fi movies, and some others just to work better together, thinking about a collaborative and sharing economy. Today we want to summarize these thoughts, and maybe we can channel them together in, for some of you, create their own business or come up with the idea in a more productive manner. So that's why Brieuc Chaffré and Nicolas Boutin from Wither, it's a French design agency, came up with a session today, and they already supported our French language day. So if you want to go back to practice your French, feel free to do that as well. Today they'll be talking about how to come up with these ideas and how they might be different for a regenerative business model than a normal one, for which you can also find some sessions here and there. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, interact with us. Let us know if you have any ideas or need clarifications. We want to make this as interactive as possible. Because it's the last day and we want to celebrate but also have like tears coming down our faces, we thought we'd make this a silly hat day. So if you want to look a bit funny in front of this blue background, it's because we are a bit sad, but we're also happy that we can still have sessions and catch up until the end of December. So if you want to rewatch some of the sessions, please go back to that. For now, I want to pass on to Nicolas and Brieuc. Brieuc also just finished his book, Activate the Circular Economy, right now available in French. And I think they had a first print coming in today, so that's really exciting. They're really on it, and they have workshops all around the circular economy and design thinking. And Nicolas as well is the co-founder with us, so they're business partners, and is also part of writing this book. So yeah, I think I let them do the work now and give you some more insights. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Manuel. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's a pleasure for us to introduce a small tool that we created with Nicolas 1 year ago that enable people to redesign their business model and make it regenerative. So, of course, as Manuel said, do not hesitate to ask questions. We'll be glad to answer. And yes, that's it. So, let's talk about circular economy and business model, because actually, what's a business model? For us, it's the main start to design, to create things, because everyone knows what's a business model. You had already another session about the business model Canva. We will talk about it quickly, and then we will introduce the tool we created with Nicolas 1 year ago. So the business model for us that looks like this, especially in the modern world. I mean, this business model canvas was created in 2009, but it's already very popular. Most of the entrepreneurs use it. That's really interesting. So you have 9 specific areas, and you can really design business model and create new things in a very original way. However, things are really based on the value proposition. That's the most important thing, because that's the experience which is composed with products and services, which is the center of all the attention you can have. It's a result of your production, but it's the thing you will propose on the market. So that's the heart of your business model. Then, on this business model Canva, on the left you have all the things that are inside your company, inside your business. all the key activities, your key partners, the key resources, and of course, the costs. And then you have on the right all the market aspects, the relationships with the customers, of course, and the channels, how do you get them, and your revenues. It's quite interesting because a business model defines the ways an organization creates, deliver, and capture value. With this tool you can do many things, because it's easy for people to understand and to talk about a business model, to innovate, to change, to make hypotheses, test, and learn. And that's a very interesting tool. That's why we are particularly fond of this tool. Here is the classical one, which is downloadable for free if you don't know it yet. So, as I told you, it's a very powerful tool because you can understand, analyze, synthesize, test, transform, evaluate. That's cool. Yep, sorry, Manuel, I'm going full screen. So that's cool, but the problem with this is you cannot go everywhere because it's limited. Most of the time, we're not talking about everything, because when people talk about value, we are very limited, because we talk only about financial, the economic value. But what about the actors? What about the flows, the impacts, the terms generated by this business model? Because for us, all the impacts can be defined at different stages. But the main stage, that's a design stage, because it's the moment you will create new things. So, do you have any idea of who declared this? I'll have a look to the chat. Do not hesitate to propose your answer. It's someone that you all know. Maybe you have one of these products actually. Okay, guys, if you don't have any idea, no problem. But actually, it's someone you all know. It's Henry Ford. Henry Ford declared this nearly a century ago. So that's a great example that we have a great way. We have great ways to have better business models, because we're only focused on money. And the problem is, like the costs and the revenues that you define at the design stage, impacts are defined at the design stage as well. But we do not consider all the things. And that's a problem, because with the classic model Canva, you will be focused only on money, on making money. Okay, that's cool, that's important. But you have to define all your impacts on all your social impacts, all your impacts on the environment, and that's very important, because that's a way to create positive impact and to avoid that we do currently. Most of the companies try to have less bad impacts. The objective now is to create positive impact, and that's the perfect way to decide where you will be positive and when you can create new partnership with providers, for example. And that's a new way to create positive impact. So here is the tool we created. Here is the first area. We always start with the function, with the why. I advise you to have a look to the Simon Sinek TED Talk on start with why. Actually, the function, it's a biomimetic inspiration as well, because nature always work with function. We do not work, nature do not work with objects, with products. So when you start with so why you do it, you'll be much more relevant. So that's the first question you have to ask when you start a business. Then you have all the human resources. Of course, you have the key activities. So what is necessary in your business, in your team to do. And then you have the partners.
Tu peux couper ou mettre moins fort, s'il te plaît. J'entends ce que je dis.
Sorry. So you have the partners. So with which providers will you work with? Which company it will be relevant to work or not? Or maybe you have companies. Maybe you will have organizations, people, regions. I don't know. It's the area to just mention all the partners you can have. And then you will have all the resources. We have three kinds of resources we use. There are natural ones, the technological ones, and of course the energy. The main objective is to define all the energy you will have during all the design stage, not only during the productions like we do usually. For example, for a website, they will use a lot of electricity, for example, for the server, for example. So that means that you will have maybe positive or negative impacts with the energy you use. So be very open to all the energy, all the resources you will need during all the different stages. Then you'll have the value proposition. What do you propose to your customers? What do you propose to? What are the products or services you propose to people? And then the customers, or the context. Sometimes contexts are more relevant than trying to define a category of people. So you have to be very open and to be very relevant when we try to define customers or contexts. And of course, at the end, you have all the relations with the markets. I mean, the products or the services went out of your factory, for example, and the first question is, how do you sell it? How do you distribute it? And then, what's happening at the end of the product life? You have to know that most, something like more than 90% of what we buy is thrown away in the next 6 months. So that means that we're missing a lot of opportunities. So that's why we have to consider this design this step at the design stage, because we're sure we can reuse resources, we can reuse materials that we put on the market. Then you have all the financial aspect, because of course it's still important. So you will have all the revenues, costs. You have all the revenues, so you have to imagine that, for example, for the natural resources, usually people are quite sure that resources are costs. Actually, we can perfectly imagine that you will create revenues with your outflows, because there's this, if you consider, for example, I don't know, a factory who will generate I don't know, some waste, instead of just burning them, maybe the company can imagine to sell it to another company. So instead of having cost, they transform it as a revenue. And that is exactly the same for every step. Maybe you can create new partnerships with companies or other organizations and create new revenues. That's the main thing to do. And then you will have all the positive impacts and negative impacts. At every step, you will have impacts. The objective is to make them positive. Of course, when you analyze a business model, you will have negative impacts. That's because you did not consider everything, and that's perfectly normal, because everybody does this, everybody works this way until now. But when you will work with this tool, your objective is to make this row perfectly empty. And you will understand that it's a matter of design, because if you consider all the relations between the different areas, you will transform them in positive impacts. So be very open and try to evaluate all the different flows in this tool. So here is a quick way we use it. For example, when we work with companies, we ask them to fill up the board by team, because when someone from the accountability or from the sales team work together, they realize that they don't have the same point of view on the company. It's very common. So it's very interesting to ask them to fill up the board, because it will synthesize everything. And the interesting way is that they will understand that their impact, their choices have impact on the other departments, of course, but sometimes on the society. So that's a very interesting way to make them understand the impacts of their business models. Then generate ideas. All the board filled up. You can easily try to create new ideas, because in the first time, when you will have to make the negative impact row empty, you will have to be very creative. So we created a game with this, with different questions. It's a way to generate ideas, but I'm sure you can find new ones. But when you make it as a game, it's much more relevant and much more. I mean, it's much easier for people to get involved. So do not hesitate to make it as a game, because you will have better results on your business model opportunities. And of course, last step, test and prototype the ideas, because you will generate a lot of ideas. Sometimes it will be very funny, sometimes it will be very relevant, sometimes it will be stupid, but just try them, because sometimes it can give you new opportunities. And of course, a prototype is much more interesting than a presentation, because you will save time and people will interact easily on it, in a much more relevant way than we do usually with presentations on meetings. So do not hesitate to test them, and to make it fun as well, because when we try to make it with Legos or wood or cardboard like we do usually, people have pleasure, have fun to do this. So it's a perfect way to test it as well. So if you have questions, do not hesitate, because we're here for this. And here you have the Circulab board. You can download it for free on circulab.eu. It's in French and in English for the moment, soon in Portuguese and Spanish. And yeah, do not hesitate if you have questions.
So I think there was a question earlier.
Yep.
And there was a reference to the president unfortunately had to leave, but then he was asking the big question that obviously these design models are quite good, but what if the markets aren't ready for it? And I think he's been in some sessions when he's in the construction sector, he said like, oh, you know, think about new sustainable building solutions as one thing, and then maybe also using circular systems approaches. But what if the market or even the customers and consumers are not ready for it? Does your business model canvas somehow think about that as well?
Actually, it's a problem we meet very often. The market is ready for this. It's just that we have to show them the economic interest. If there is no economic interest, they won't go in it. That's why we are very focused on creating new economic opportunities with social and environmental opportunities. If you do only the two last ones, they won't be ready for it, and then they will never be. But if you show that you will create economic opportunities and in the same time social and environmental opportunities, they will be ready, and of course they will go for it very quickly. But you have to be very focused on the economic aspect, but not only the economic aspects. Of course, we have to consider all the different areas.
And just maybe in addition to that, you were talking about trying out ideas, and it seems like if you're in design sector, if you, for example, make furniture or some other things, it makes sense that you go into a room and have some cardboard and wood. But what if, for example, I'm in the service industry? Would I be able to try out designs as well with like doing it in that way? Or is this literally for more like a manufacturing or production focus where I actually work with materials specifically?
Yeah, it's a question people ask very often. You can design a service the same way. For example, try to imagine an experience. If you go in a restaurant, try to imagine all the touch points you will have with the customers, and you will design and test and prototype what will it look like actually. And that's another way of prototyping things. And when you will prototype a service, you will very quickly design some products, some objects, some things that you will have to prototype. And for a website, actually, it can be exactly the same. You can draw, you can make things with cardboard. You don't care. You just have to express your ideas that people understand because you can touch it.
So just a reminder, we're in a session with how to design a regenerative business model, but I'm actually here to ask the questions. So we'd like the audience to participate, and we had some insights already of the background of our audience, but if you have any questions, that will be the time to put them forward, and we then pick them up from the chat. There's the icon. If you're still in full screen mode, you can hover to the top of the screen, and you can open the chat there again and put in your thoughts and questions. If you need any clarification, or even if you want to challenge this business canvas, maybe you've worked with business canvases yourself, please do so. If not, I might jump back to another question. We obviously had several sessions given by entrepreneurs, also on how to draw a business canvas with like different companies and different approaches. One of them had the bold title of "Business Models Don't Last Forever." So I wanted to ask you how flexible is this business model? Is it something you have to do on the yearly basis or every 5 years, or how do you deal with that, especially now that there's obviously this idea about startups. Some startups last a few weeks, especially if they're tech startups and online startups, and only if you make it. How do you deal with that, the positive side of disruption? There's many things coming through, but also maybe changing tomorrow.
Yep, good question as well. Actually, your business model can move every day. We're in a very, very complex world, so we can perfectly imagine that resources will change, providers will change, technology will change, everything changes very, very, very quickly in our world. So it's a static tool, but it's your responsibility actually to be very open and to be very attentive to all the opportunities and weaknesses of the context you have. So be very precise and try to anticipate all the problems you can have, because when we talk about impact or revenues, for example, with climate change, you can try to anticipate the problems you will have, for example, but it's kind of problem resiliency. So if you want to anticipate all these issues, try to see all the different threats you can have around you and can impact your business model. So of course it's a static tool. Static tool, but you have to make it live, because things change very quickly, but you can create and test new ideas every day, because on each area you can create new things.
So we had quite a few questions there from Chennai team and Catherine. One of them was referring back to the talk by Simon Simonek, so you can probably come back to it later. But there was more question about how can you make it fun, and how can you also work with the game approach. So for example, there was a question for resolving negative impacts. And so like you mentioned the game approach earlier, and I think they're both around the same one, how you can make the workshops fun and how you can engage people so they don't feel in front of like a too big task to solve. And also, yeah, how can you go against having negative impacts that we sometimes don't foresee?
Nicolas will take the answer if you want.
Hello everyone, I hope you can hear me. So yeah, we had a question from Chen asking if what was the fun aspect of the game and the business game. So you saw the board that Brie just explained, but it also comes with ID cards. So the cards are like this. I'm going to take some, if you can see me on the video. So we play with people with this sort of cards that gives some ideas to all the participants. So there are many different cards and different aspects that are connected with the board, and it is supposed to create some co-creation with all the participants and give them some fresh ideas to help them think out of the box and not just see their business model as it is, but to open up new opportunities regarding perhaps new ways to generate energy or to recover materials, to have a full spectrum of the life cycle of the product or the service. So yeah, hope it helps. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I think that was a really helpful answer. There Sylvia had one, and I think maybe you two can answer that one together. It's a little bit of a trickier one with regards to the EU. Cheers.
Actually, it's a fun question because we had a quick contact with communication agency which work with the EU Commission, and we gave them our book where we explain all these things. So we really hope that they will play with this game because actually that's the objective. We must redesign all our system, and it can help to make a positive impact instead of having this economy we have today.
The camera est off.
Sorry.
Also, looking for my video. Also about the fan aspect and other cards that are being played during the session. We give some personas to the participants, so it helps them to sort of go into another personality that is more focused on, let's say, technology, business, or the human aspect or the nature aspect. And you can see all the different personas that the people are given. So some of them are French, some of them are more American or English. You have also the Queen of England somewhere. And this it just helped the other way around. But participants to not just focus on their daily business role. So let's say people are from marketing or engineering or design, but if they are supposed to be the Queen of England and to look at all the social and bigger aspect, bigger picture of the problem, they will come up also with different sort of ideas than they have regularly. So do we have any other questions? I don't see any other.
Yeah, they're not coming through right now, but okay. I might have a last one, because obviously you run these workshops then also with some companies,
yeah.
And I assume you're both right now in your space, and I was quite curious because maybe that's interesting for some startups as well, how you got your first space or what it is, because I'm still really intrigued. Is this like an old studio, or is it a factory place, or what is that?
Oh, you mean the place where we work?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's let me show you. This is our office. You can see here, just behind. Other people working with us. So everybody's. It's actually much bigger. So we have 2 or 3 stories. So we're in the mezzanine right now. And so it's a sort of mini factory with a co-working space, also private rooms, and some workshop space for craftsmen, like working wood or metal or textile, leather. We also have a fab lab for digital fabrication, and a gallery, a restaurant. It's quite a nice place to work. Indeed.
Cool. Yeah, and I think it's always one of the key aspects also of starting something, if you're not necessarily just online, to be at the right place. Maybe there's a question from Catherine. It is, what are the major barriers of getting established businesses to engage with this? So obviously, how do you convince maybe some of the big companies, maybe some SMEs that are lagging behind a bit? How do you convince these, and what keeps them from not doing that? Where do you see the biggest barriers and hurdles?
Well, it depends obviously of the size of the company. So if they're big companies, now they're getting interested in the topic of the circular economy because, well, thanks to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and great energy. People are getting aware of the topic first, so it's a good thing. And also, if they are big, they probably have some cash flow to to try investigate and innovate in that direction. So we work with companies like L'Oréal or other big French companies, and working with smaller companies, they have less money, so it's difficult for them to have to rethink their business model. They're usually very scared, and but the bottom line is quite difficult for them. So it really depends on the personality of the founder, I would say. So if the founder is sort of visionary or open-minded person, or still exploring fresh ideas, maybe we can work with him or her. But if it's not considered as a issue, for example, waste or energy, it's going to be very difficult to take them to that direction of circular economy.
Oh, yeah, I think that makes sense. And yeah, maybe we just take the chance now to remind our viewers that we're probably going to close the session quite soon if there's not much more questions coming in, because I think what both Breuke and Nicolas wanted to achieve with the session is let you guys know about this tool, and instead of just talking about it, also using it. So they posted within the chat several times the link so they can find this tool, and I think, yeah, that's one of the things they want people to engage. And yeah, if you have any feedback for them as well, just get back in touch with them, because I think they have an interest about also making that better. There's actually a last question coming through. I mentioned at the beginning that you just have a book, and maybe both you Nicolas and Breuke, can answer that, and after that we might bring the session to a close. Thanks.
Yep. Actually, the book just was published today. It's available only in France for the moment, but we introduce our vision of the circular economy, for example, with many themes like this one, and tools like the circular board we just introduced you. All of our tools are perfectly open source. So we can redesign things and have better tools. So if you want to join us to make them better, of course you can. And that's, for example, another tool that we could introduce, which is called Circular Partners. If you want to find and create new opportunities, new partnerships with other companies or new providers or organizations. So you can download it as well on the circulab.eu page. And yeah, and if someone wants the English version of the book, we will have to find a translator. So it would take a bit of time.
So we'll be there shortly. So the book is called, I think it's called Activating the Circular Economy. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Activate the Circular Economy. And yeah, there's some requests for translating. So yeah, if anyone knows a publisher who wants to take it on, just get in touch with Breuke and Nicolas. There was a last question from Catherine. If your business model could be improved by also working with municipalities and not just businesses to help them reduce waste coming to their landfills, do you think that's part of what you want to achieve with your company, or do you think you want to focus on the company sector?
We're based in France and work with municipalities and regions. It's very hard when you're a very young company. So it takes a lot of time. We don't have so much. So we consider that we will be much more effective to work with companies which have big impacts actually. But of course we would be glad to work with them. But We tried, but we did not succeed. So maybe later it will come.
The thing is, to add on to this, we try to work with the cities and territories, and it makes sense regarding the circular economy topic, because yeah, the mic. But it was difficult to get into this environment, because when you work with companies, then you are associated with a business, and if you want to work with municipalities, people don't really like it. So you can't really do both at the same time. It's quite difficult. But we're trying to explore that, because for us it makes sense to work with territories and cities. So the Circulab is actually designed to as a network. So we are training consultants to do the Circulab with us, and some of them are focused on municipalities and territories only. So we will enter this new field through them, and also perhaps new sorts of company we never explored before, because some consultants have different expertise than us. So we can also explore new types of companies or industries, training this pool of consultants.
Cool, and there came a question in again, and it was talking generally about the circular economy movement in France. I want to highlight that we had a French day, and both Nicolas and Dirk had a workshop happening there as well. There's open mics and also EMF stages that have several different approaches. We had a contribution from actually tuning in from Asia. There's a team of Circulab. They look at the circular movements and projects all around the world. There's also the, I think it was Maud Richer. She was talking about like some of the sharing movement in France as well. So yeah, maybe we don't have that much time in this session, but if you want to quickly add something, otherwise I would highlight your views that the French Day has a lot of information about that. And yeah, maybe you can add something in English now for those who really want to find a way of finding more about that in France.
Yeah, in France, things are going fast. I mean, not as fast as we would like, but for 1 or 2 years, some cities like Paris are very active. They try many things on the field, and you have companies who are more interested in the circular economy. They try things as well, but it's not as ambitious as it could be. But it's the beginning, actually. So that's a good start. That's pretty interesting to work in this sector in France, because that's the beginning, and you have many entrepreneurs who are very active on this topic.
That's why we also had the idea of bringing the French language days in, of making sure more people can contribute, and that obviously this doesn't stay in only English-speaking countries or in Europe, but everyone else can contribute and also share these ideas around the circular economy, the sharing economy, and the collaborative economy. I would like to thank you both for hosting this session and giving us those insights, and most of all, share the tool with us. The link is in the chat, so please check it out, see if that helps your business canvas. Both, as we also said, in the book they just published, there are more details around it, and if you really value their work, or you can do a workshop as well, I think it's always nice to support those startups as well. The value they actually create that then has a multiplication effect for other companies to create value. There are in catch-up, mentioned before, some other sessions on business models, and maybe they can complement this one. So please go to the catch-up. And we just had one comment through from Jen again. She doesn't speak French, but yeah, maybe they gave you some insight of what's happening there. And thanks for the questions, all that came through in as well. So there's some sessions on startups, which you can watch in the catch-up, and also designing a great business model, which is a similar session. with actually suggesting the old business model. So I think you can get a comparison. It's the last day of the Disruptive Innovation Festival, but obviously that doesn't mean you have to like tune out now. There's session at 2, so just following after this, Design is Civics, and it's one from our big top 10 sessions, so it's universities. They basically support us in the work we're trying to do and people we to connect, try to connect. And at 4 there's also another session on regenerative entrepreneurship and investment, and that actually comes in from Canada. So make sure you get in touch with the right people maybe as well. And it's a lot about connecting ideas from all over the world at the right place. And be encouraged, be brave, yeah, dare to rethink and dare to be different. So thanks to Greg and Nicolas. If you want to say some last words.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for your proposition, and we'll be glad to help people if I think we could be relevant for them.
Cool, that sounds great. Yeah, thanks everyone.
But do not hesitate to get in touch with us if you're interested. I think the key is to connect.
Cool, yeah, same page there. So thanks everyone. Have a lovely afternoon and hope you make the most of the resources everyone has created over the last 3 weeks here at this Disruptive Innovation Festival. Bye-bye.